Looks like we don't need any introductions today, other than obviously the dog is introducing himself or herself. Herself.
Yeah.
But not so much that my dog is waking up, so we're all good. And any self-identification of members for today's topics? I don't believe so, but okay. And let's do the approval of minutes for the February 23rd, 2020. That needs to be updated on the 2021. Any questions about the minutes that were sent out by Tara on the 22nd for your review?
Move to approve.
Dean, is there a second?
Second.
Nick on the second. Perfect. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 That's unanimous. All right. Very good. Next item, and Tara, I think this is your update here, the outreach to Amazon. What do you have for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know, unfortunately, that's not going great. So I decided to give the Amazon person like one more chance, kind of like, you know, out of the Christmas season for sure. Like, you know, not that they're doing that kind of thing with their job, but, you know, just trying to say like one more time, let me reach out. So I did a couple weeks ago and I still haven't heard back. So my next plan of action is to actually like move my computer somewhere else, first of all, because this is driving me crazy. And then secondly, I was thinking I was going to reach out to Judge Moore and talk to Judge Moore about the opportunity to, you know, he had told me kind of personally when I first started in this role that if I ever, you know, felt like, it's kind of an odd comment looking back, but you know, it actually proved to be very helpful because he said, if you ever have any trouble engaging Amazon, we really want to make sure that they stay engaged. And so let me know if you have any trouble with that. So I'm thinking it's time to call in that offer and to just let him know that, yeah, indeed, we do need a little help with that. So so I just wanted to let you guys know that, you know, it has not escaped my attention. It's just not going well. So, you know, moving on to the next opportunity to reach out to them. We're going to move to a different spot where it's not quite so noisy. I even turned on our classical music hoping that would help, but that's all right. That's all I have on that.
Would TRIAD be a potential to help with that at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. I did reach out to Lee and to Kimberly Rossetti, and we had a meeting about potential board members and briefly touched on Amazon. They didn't really have a lot of feedback about that. I mean, I kind of got the feeling that they are also trying to engage Amazon. And, you know, certainly I tried to express that, look, you know, this is something that we want to make sure that we're not doing in a vacuum. We understand that the need for multiple relationships and have been trying to engage TRIAD with some brainstorming about how we can better work together. And there are some examples of where that's going pretty well. So I've been working with Kimberly, for example, on some updating language that you guys will see at the May 11th board meeting around incumbent worker training opportunities. So there are some ways that I think we're trying to kind of establish how TRIAD and the WIB can, you know, like really align in terms of, you know, how we're working together with our various opportunities. But I don't know, they just didn't really seem like they had a lot of ideas about board members, you know, from various companies.
I may have said this before, but a couple of years ago, right when Amazon was getting started, we tried to reach out to Amazon through TRIAD, and it really didn't work out because I think TRIAD was A, very sensitive about their relationship with Amazon, and B, I think they were struggling also in the same sense that we were. I think Judge Moore or a judge exec is a perfect opportunity to get an introduction.
Okay.
I think Amazon will respect that tax base first, frankly.
Okay. I just, yeah. And I mean, mostly I was just thinking since he offered, that would be, a good direction to go. But I'm going to continue, working with Triad and making sure that they know, like, I'm not trying to steal their relationship or anything, but,
Yeah.
I do think that there's a good reason for both of our organizations to have some connection there.
Right, right.
Okay.
Okay.
And
All right. Well, let's hope that they're going to be such an important role in this community. Hopefully, there'll be something that goes on there. I remember Paul White was a great advocate early on before they announced their intention to invest, but he's moved on to a different role. So I don't know if that would be helpful. I can also try to reach out to him and just see what his perspective is, at least.
yeah.
He was the head of I don't know his exact title, but Amazon Air, and we were on a panel together for leadership under Kentucky. So he was very much a workforce focused person. And he's still with Amazon. So let me.
Yeah, that would be great, John.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We had a couple of meetings with him at Ignite. But
Very approachable.
yeah, he is. I think he's in Miami now, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe,
Okay.
Maybe I see him on LinkedIn occasionally, but I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Well, let me dig up and see if I can reach out to him.
Thank you so much.
Member nominations. We have Michelle Cesaric, we need to renominate, and Ryan Henson is also a renomination. So is there action required for that, Tara, or what do we need to do here?
So based on my understanding of how we revise the bylaws, I think we still have an arrangement where someone's first nomination is for 3 2-year terms, but that they can be nominated again. That's my interpretation of what we created with the new bylaws changes. So you can serve a maximum of 12 years or 6 terms. But the way I understand it, of what we did, like a nominations, it's not for 12 years, it's really for 6. With the idea that if someone gets a new job, or I mean, really for any reason, they can be renominated. And so I don't think, I mean, based on, again, this is sort of my understanding of what we created. It's not necessarily our intention that everyone serve for 6 terms or 12 years. It's just that there's an option for that if there's a desire for it, which would require then Michelle to be nominated basically again. And in Ryan's case, he has kind of that carve out. He can like serve in perpetuity because he's like the only person that's the right person for representing Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, where he is the regional manager. So he and Connie Schnell are similar in that way, where they have specific roles that are required to be represented on the board. But I did reach out to both of these individuals and ask, I did ask Ryan if he wanted to serve again or if there was anybody, and he said still not anybody else, and happy to serve. And of course, Michelle is very excited about continuing her role.
Okay.
So
I guess my question was more about, I should know this process by now, but we don't take a vote on that. We just have a discussion and.
You normally do.
Okay.
You normally vote to send it to the full board for a final vote, just as a, just to show that you reviewed it. This is a little different because these individuals. And so I know I might have neglected to send the nomination forms now that I think about it, but I'm working on them. But these individuals are they're not new to you, but we probably still just need a vote to say, yeah, we talked about it, and yeah, we want the board to do this.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Does anyone have any questions or discussion points before we take the formal vote So let's start with Michelle Sesteric. All those in favor of presenting her nominate or renomination to the full board, say aye.
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 Do you need a,
There,
do you
and-
need a motion?
I'll make the motion to nominate Michelle.
Second the
Dave.
motion.
Thanks, Dean. And you guys already voted, so you're good.
You just rewrite how that happened. So you have some video editing to do. Tara.
I got it.
A small history adjustment.
I got it.
So can we get a motion
good.
for Ryan Henson?
So move.
All right, Nick, and a second.
Second.
Dave, all those in favor of bringing Ryan Henson's nomination to the full board, say aye.
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 Right, unanimous there as well. And I do, before we move on from this, hold on, I need to. One other name that I wanted to make sure that we have a couple other people whose final terms are expiring.
Yes,
Know if you wanted to already talk about that yet, Tara, or you're not ready to talk about that? So,
we can talk about it.
all right.
Yeah, in fact, why don't I share my screen and then we can all be looking at the same thing. So on your handout this time, I gave you guys some notes, but they might not be as clear as what you would like. So let me see what I can do here. Okay. So you should be looking at our fund spreadsheet now. And okay, so what I tried to do is in this column B, I made notes on replacement for expiring members. So I don't anticipate that this column will like always be here, but just because we have so many expiring members, I just wanted to take an opportunity to you know, note what was going on with them. So Ryan Henson, renewing. So Chad Day, you might think, why does it say complete? Well, the reason it says complete is because if you remember last year, we actually replaced Chad already. We already did the legacy planning for Chad's position. He is required as someone who is representing labor. And last year we ended up having 2 nominees in the labor category who were pretty strong, Jared Tiemeyer and Vicky Burling, for a labor business partnership. And so you guys at that time elected to go ahead and add them both to the board, knowing that Chad was going to roll off in June, but then he, you know, just not having a gap in that space. So we don't really have to do anything about Chad, his term expiring, because that position's already been filled, if that makes sense. Okay, so moving on down here, and it looks like this is frozen. Hold on, let me see if I can unfreeze. All right, cool. Okay, so now we're down to Michelle, who is renewing. Okay, Christy Henry. Christy has identified a potential business person from Grant County who could replace her on the board. I was hoping that she's a real estate agent. She actually owns her own real estate company in Williamstown. She's very familiar with the area in that role. And again, like as a small business owner, it seems like it would be a really nice fit. I was hoping she was going to decide for sure that she was interested by now, but unfortunately I haven't heard back from her. She's got like high school age kids and sort of indicated like spring break and some other things were going to be taking her attention. So I met with her in person, and then I followed up with her via email and sent her the nomination form to be completed. And so, you know, my thought was that I would reach out to her again, like next week probably, and just say, hey, you know, we do need to know if you're going to do this, because if not, we got to find somebody else ideally before the end of June. Right. So, I mean, really before then, but definitely we would want to be voting on them voting them in at the July WIB meeting. So therefore, you know, we would need them identified in the month of May so that you guys could review it in your June meeting if you have. And again, ideally it would have been this month, and I tried for that. But anyway, she seems like a good candidate and she seemed pretty interested. So I'm hopeful that that she will say yes. And I, of course, am really totally blanking on her name at the moment. Her last name is Delaney. And again, she's a realtor. Michelle Tyson, when I say unknown, that is that I am unaware of who her replacement might be. Not that I don't know Michelle Tyson. So that's kind of an open business position that we still are looking for. And then again, hopefully we would be filling soon. And then Rhonda Whitaker has committed to, she actually spoke up in the business services committee and said, I'm rolling off the board and I'm looking for my successor. Hopefully you guys will take somebody else from Duke. And I said, of course. So she's working internally at Duke. They're just such a community partner. I don't want to speak for you guys, but I do think it would be great to be able to have someone from Duke continue to be on the WIB. It looks like Rhonda's rolling back from a number of commitments. She's rolling off the Education Council.
She is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, off the Education Council board as well. So anyway, I don't have that person yet, but I'm hopeful that we will have them again, in time for a meeting in June.
And I spoke to Rhonda at the awards presentation last week, and I helped her look at, what is the real ask for this role on the WIB. And I think the person she was thinking about for this was reluctant whether they knew what their role would be and how much work would this be, and some hesitation. I just encouraged her to join the board because it's not that much work in the beginning. And a lot of it's more observing.
Yeah.
This is a great chance for someone to step up and do some leadership without being, let's say, held to a certain, responsibility standard yet. So
yep.
She appreciated that perspective. And I hope then she took that back and moved the ball forward.
Okay.
Why is Gina Stowe's line unnumbered? And there's also no date on that one. Is she not nominated yet, or what's the story there?
No, I think that's just an error on my part.
Because there's no date on the first term expiring on the far right either.
I think it's just, again, an error on my part.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just look at this really quick. Yeah, I was sorry about that. So she would have been effective March 9th. I was having trouble with one of these dates. So if you notice, it now says start of first term, start of second term, start of third term. It used to just say like first, second, third. But I found an error with Kimberly Rossetti's term, and it actually, I think, is still on there because I still haven't found when she actually started. So this says that Kimberly Rossetti started on July 1st, 2020, which I know is not correct because she was on the board before I came. So I have tried to dig in and do some additional research to find exactly when she joined. And just in the middle of strategic planning and everything, I haven't had a chance to just narrow. I mean, I'm literally going through the minutes and just trying to find like where, and because this is the document where we capture that. So since it's wrong, there's not another place other than just literally reviewing the minutes and doing that. So anyway, I think that got me a little bit off track with Gina's, but I apologize. But the good news is that adding her back in does increase our business percentage just a bit, which is nice. So that means that even after Michelle Tyson rolls off, if we took this number back to 18, we would still be in compliance if we have to take like an extra month or something to find, or 2 months to find another business person that, that if we were looking to recruit someone else. So. And
just if that were 17, if for whatever reason we didn't get the nominations for the successors.
Yeah, so then that would be, less than ideal. So, because then we would be we're not supposed to be out of compliance for more than 30 days. So if they rolled off, technically their terms end on June 30th. I believe, let me go over here and look. Yeah, so their terms will end on June 30th. So if we were voting on them at, early July, that would not be any trouble. But we do need to get them in, at least two in, to this committee in June so that they're voted on in July. If not, if again, like worst case scenario would come to play, what I would do is I would apply to the cabinet with a plan for recruitment and then ask for a waiver so that we would have documentation that we were aware of the situation and that we were working to fix it.
Okay, that sounds good.
So probably it's appropriate for me to talk about this right now. As you guys know, I have been steadily headed toward retirement over the last year or so. And I think in February or March, it began to dawn on me that I was losing touch of what was going on inside the community, inside the workforce activities. Due to commitments to my family, I was missing GROW meetings and employer roundtables and things like that. So I had talked with Tara in the beginning of April, maybe late March, to talk a little bit about resigning from the board at the end of this term, at the end of June. So I wanted to give you a heads up that that's my intention right now. But if that puts us at a unfavorable condition, I don't have any problem remaining on the board as a member. I am going to resign from the BSC chair role for sure, but I can certainly stay on the board until a replacement is found. I was going to talk about that later on, probably in the leadership side of the meeting, but I don't want to have to go back and rehash this again. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Okay.
Appreciate that.
So I think that would certainly, Tara, put us below the number.
Yeah, it would. Maybe this is a good time for me to mention, I met someone recently who I actually think would be an amazing addition to the WIB. And I was kind of curious, normally you guys have been bringing me nominees. And so I'm curious if any of you know this person. Her name is Colleen Kirkpatrick. She is the head of HR for Ethos Laboratories. She's an HR person and she's also an attorney. She's the first
Well,
person
that's
of
very dangerous.
she's also the first woman of color or person of color in leadership at Ethos. They're growing quickly. She has a very just amazing presence. I ended up interviewing her kind of as a facilitated conversation as part of the Grow Job Quality Challenge week 2 when we were talking to different companies. And I mean, I was just really blown away by her. She had some nonprofit experience. She has some for-profit experience. She really understands the work, I think, that we are trying to do with the WIB as far as, they're trying to be a second chance employer as much as they can be. And she's, very able to speak about DEI issues in like just a really, high level professional way. I don't, we haven't come across a situation before where like one of you didn't know, the nominee, or they weren't like a required nominee. So I don't know if you have a particular idea about, what it would look like to meet with her. I was originally going to recommend that maybe she, be asked to join the DEI committee that's going to be formed as part of the strategic plan. But I mean, she certainly has the love, she's the caliber that she could absolutely just go straight to board membership. I mean, if she is willing to do that, I mean, I don't know, she has a lot on her plate. She's doing compliance and things like that for Ethos as well. So not just HR, but I'm seeing like kind of no nods, so it doesn't look like you guys know her, but I do think she would be truly an excellent board member.
It looks like she's only been in that role for 4 months, or been in the company for 4 months.
Yeah, she's new. She said that. Yeah.
So we're blowing up her LinkedIn together, John.
Yeah. Yeah. She's gonna be like, why are all these people looking up?
Yeah,
Right.
he's getting an email right now that she's trending on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So it would up our numbers for Campbell County. You know, we don't have for it being one of our more populated counties, we don't have a huge number of board members from there. I mean, we have some. We have John, and maybe some of the rest of you. Maybe Nick's from Campbell County. I don't know, but
Well,
for
technically, I'm
it being
incorporated in Boone County, though, so
what'd you say?
technically I'm incorporated in Boone County.
Okay.
The version of John that you know is the Boone County John. So
There we go. Okay. Her business is located in Campbell. So
they're right on Monmouth, right?
yeah, they are.
They are. I'm looking at their job openings. They have 50 really good-looking jobs opening right now across
Yeah.
North America. So
They're growing very quickly.
yeah, it does look like they are expanding very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, they started off, she said, as really focusing on the opioid epidemic and laboratory things related to that. And then when COVID hit, they did a huge pivot to be available for testing with it. And, I don't know exactly the details, but they have a lot of people that work in the lab. And the day that I talked to her, she was getting ready the following week for something that they call Lab Week, where they invest a lot of money into thanking all of their lab techs for all the work that they do. It was just an interesting story to kind of talk to her about, what they feel like job quality looks like. So anyway, it certainly doesn't have to be her, but I would like to engage her in some way in our work. Just because I just think she would add a lot of value with her, variety of expertise. And I know she's new in that role, but I think she's going to be around for a while, it seemed like.
Would there be any
Good
way?
idea, Terry.
Would there be any way for anybody from the MBO to interact with either her and you in a shared meeting of some type?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to facilitate that, and if we wanted to kind of pitch it as we're developing this new committee, and does she have any interest in our work? And then in that because that committee can be made up of people, they don't have to be board members. So it would be kind of an interesting opportunity, I think, to have a conversation with her of, hey, we're creating this new committee, what do you think? Which, by the way, I'm going to talk to you guys about this committee here in just a minute. But it would be a way to talk with her with a little bit of like, no pressure, right? So like if she says no to joining a committee, well, she's probably not going to have the time for the board membership, but it'd be a chance for you guys to meet her in kind of it wouldn't be like, hey, do you want to, join the, like, no, it wouldn't be this hard ask right off the bat, but it would be something. So that's one idea.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, honestly, I would rather see us focus solely on the board position.
Okay.
Somewhat just because I think, targeting a specific committee may limit, really what we envision her involvement to be.
That's a good point. Yep.
So it would be a nice add-on to have her on that committee. Whereas
Right.
there's a lot more value in having new voices and our overall diversity of voices on the board.
Yeah. And we don't have a ton of board members in the healthcare space, and ethos would be a very different kind of health, perspective, I think, which would also be really helpful. So not just her perspective and her own experience, but I think what the work that their company is doing and the kinds of hires that they're making, as Dave said, they're expanding. I think it would be helpful to understand how that's going for them.
Yeah. I was also on a roundtable last week with the I think his title is VP of Operations and General Manager of Gravity Diagnostics. Similar type of space there. We agreed to try to meet up for a coffee sometime. But obviously they've become a pretty significant company with 20x revenue growth over 9 months.
Wow.
So yeah, and 5x headcount growth over that same period. So yeah, I need to start thinking more about who else might be a good business partner to have on here as we look to build some structure back onto this. So, okay.
Yeah, I think in the past year, we've definitely had a few of our business members who have just not been particularly active for various reasons. And so definitely I think having a few new people and trying to figure out how do we make sure to engage them is going to be really important.
I do think with the trend toward the diagnostics, whether it's Ethos or Gravity or even CTI in Northern Kentucky, I think it's a huge sector that we have to look at, and not having anybody from that sector really active makes sense for us to look in that direction, frankly.
Have we ever had a member from Tier 1, Dave?
I don't think so. Norm has been supportive and worked with us from time to time, but never anybody from Tier 1.
I feel like they are very mission aligned on that and
Yep.
very involved
Mm-hmm.
in their space. I do know their CFO. I don't know if this would be her thing, but they're a large enough institution that there would be opportunities for others to participate. So
I think the world of that organization. They're a 100% class organization.
For sure. And that's another, I'm assuming that's why you brought it up, John, but it's a really great example of a sector that, we have IT, business, finance kind of all grouped together, but, really we have Brent, who obviously brings a lot of experience in the IT space. He's really serving I think he's serving actually now in his role at the chamber, but obviously brings, his background with C Forward, but we don't have anybody who sort of day to day is thinking about that space, about, IT. So not Tier 1. They're not like IT, like, oh, I'm going to fix your computer. They're IT, like data analysis and training and everything, web-based and so forth. But I still think, we're kind of low on those kinds of companies.
And, they've pivoted toward the clinical support and clinical health also.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
well, and I think as we think through, like, what does Northern Kentucky's economy look like, in the future, it's really helpful to have companies that are growing and in different sectors. We want to keep the sectors we have and make sure we're strong there and that we understand what's going on with our strong existing sectors. But I think it's going to be important that we also have at least some connection to what are the new sectors and how do we make sure we're supporting, both.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would be happy to set up a meeting with Colleen to talk about board membership. John, I'd love to have you there. If anybody else wants to attend, I can invite everybody or just John, whatever. What do you guys feel like?
I think that we shouldn't overwhelm her, but
we don't want to scare her.
But I don't have any problems attending. Also, if you need some support.
Okay. We'll see what schedules kind of allow for.
Yeah.
And go from there. So that's an action item for me. Cool. Okay. And then John, did you want to talk to your connection at Tier 1? Can you do that and sort of
I've got that as an action item for me.
Okay, great. I am still, and I got to get back with Judge Fields again. I sent him the nomination form so many times. But you know, we would still really like to have somebody who lives and works in Pendleton County. There's a couple of potential candidates and we just need to like make it happen. So we have somebody from the area development district who works in Falmouth, and I will do more to really engage with him and see if we can get Judge Fields to pull the trigger on introducing me to that. If he introduced me, I don't mind doing all the rest of the legwork, but I don't know the person's contact information, so I haven't been able to reach out on my own. So I'll work on that too. All right. Did you guys have any other questions about this grid? Nope. Okay. I'll stop sharing then.
Did the dog go to sleep?
Hopefully that's what happened.
Or escaped, right?
No, she's in her crate.
Bourbon under the tongue always works.
Yeah.
Not putting the water bowl.
I gave her a carrot. You know, good for the teeth and something to do. So okay, so back to the agenda for a second. Let's see. Remember,
Next up is attendance review.
Yeah, okay. So let me.
And the July board meeting, I don't have those 21, 22 meetings on my calendar, it looks like.
Yep. So tomorrow, the executive committee will be voting to approve those, and then we will get all those out to you guys.
Okay, was that in the packet for tomorrow's meeting?
I think so.
All right, I didn't look
It
at
was supposed to be for sure.
Okay.
You know, Connie's gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she moved on. So, we were a lot
The
more.
seniors we expect now on our meeting minutes, Tara, so.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm doing my best, John. I definitely miss Connie. All right, so here's MBO. Okay, great. So you guys are, you know, I don't, this isn't right. Hold on.
We had quorum there.
Yeah, we definitely
Yeah.
did.
It's in the meeting minutes, but we can go back and fix
I'll
that.
go back.
Let's
I'll
look at
go back.
others. We're perfect. Let's
Yeah, you
focus on
guys-
those who are not perfect.
You guys are good. All right, so here's PY. We just didn't do RSVPs that time, but we had a quorum.
Mhm.
So everything's looking pretty good. We've got, you know, Shannon has not really been RSVPing, but she tends to attend. She just doesn't RSVP. Danita, she's not with us anymore. Let's see. Christy, you know, we've struggled a little bit with Christy's attendance. She's about to roll off. I think that's kind of a trend when you see somebody who's kind of been on for a while and they know they're leaving, and it's kind of it's like, you know, senioritis kind of a deal. Same with Chad. His attendance is not the best, and, you know, but you know, he's about to roll off as well. He has actually missed quite a few meetings, actually, which, you know, makes it hard sometimes, but generally, I think the rest of the committee is doing all right. BSC, I think there's been a lot of really good engagement lately with BSC. I just didn't mark the present because I was doing the meeting by myself, but you had quorum that day. I have it all in the notes. Sorry about that. There's actually really good attendance. And then for the rest of the time, so John, so the pink doesn't show up if the person RSVP'd no, which I don't know how to change that, but it might actually be helpful to have it still be pink, just to know that they, like they weren't there either way. So
There's
that's
meant to
just,
be a flag of, we don't know what's going on, or it's unexpected.
got it. Okay.
I mean,
That's
different, we can change that, but it was meant to be,
like they're not telling
say
us.
yes, but aren't attending,
Got it.
or don't say anything. Those are both not states you want. But if they say I can't attend,
Yeah.
then that's we know that now. So
Yeah. I will say that Kimberly Rossetti has really quite terrible attendance related to the committee.
Yeah.
She almost always attends the board meetings. And she actually attended the program and youth committee meeting this month, because I asked her to help us talk about our incumbent worker training policy that I've been talking to Triad about. And so, I mean, I think she's willing to engage, but the committee's just not been a priority. And I'd be very open to suggestions if anybody has any about trying to better engage her.
is this something she wants to do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I've been doing a lot of work to try to show Triad the value of the WIB and the Career Center. And I feel like they're coming along. They've started inviting us to meetings, which is nice. So, the optimist in me says that over time, as we continue to grow that relationship, that she'll see the value in going to the committee meeting, and value in, not missing it, right? Because good stuff's coming out of it. But at the same time, we've been doing really great work under this committee for the last several months. And granted, it wasn't directly tied to Triad, but it was certainly tied to employer needs, which is then tied to Triad. So I'm not really sure how to answer that.
I was going to say almost the same thing, Tara. I think that Triad is trying to look at the bigger picture, whether they should be or not. That I feel like they think that's their role, and for them to get tied up in a conversation about something going on at the Career Center or certification may not be global enough, in their opinion. And that's a shame, because you're absolutely right. It does tie back into their mission.
Yeah.
But it's historically been a problem with them anyway. When Wade was part of the committee, he was active until he didn't have any action items. If it was just another meeting for him, he kind of left.
Right.
It was physically or mentally.
Yeah.
And I think Kimberly might be the same situation, where she doesn't want to get tied up in the minutia of some of the daily work. You know what I mean?
Yep. I think
So
that's
I
accurate.
think you have to kind of appeal to her to see if she can add that to her plate, or maybe Triad needs to think about somebody else. But I do think Triad has to be on the board.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I think she's the right person. I mean, she has decision-making ability. She's in the high. I mean, we need someone who's really thinking about what's going on with the companies. I mean, she's the one that's meeting with Lee, with CEOs, et cetera. So, I mean, I don't mind trying to talk to her about it. I mean, I think she and I have a pretty good relationship. We kind of have a lot in, I mean, we're not like buddies or anything, but we have a lot in common. I feel like I can kind of chat with her about, different needs. So I put that on my list to talk to her about what would make it, something that she could more prioritize.
Yeah.
I will say she did text me this past one, Dave, when we met, and said, "Hey, I was planning to come, and then this thing came up," which was at least,
That's good.
I mean, it was, during the meeting, but at least it was something where she was actually planning to attend, which is nice. I mean, that does actually help a lot. So
That's good to know. I mean, that
Yeah.
is good to know.
yeah. So That's oh, okay. And then the last one is the full WIB. So let's see. So we haven't had this special meeting yet. We're a little tight on quorum. Don't forget, please, that we have a meeting on Thursday. It's going to take like 30 minutes. It's going to be so quick. I think John can't come, but the rest of you, please, please, please come. It'll just take a second and it'll make my life so much better if we have quorum. So
I was going to ask if we could just go through the whole document. I looked at it today. I think it'll take longer than half an hour to read through it.
you're killing me, Dave. Well, actually, I have an hour-long recording that you can listen to if you like, of me going through the entire document and explaining what the whole thing is, just in case someone needed that. So
I'll put that on my to-do list. Okay.
pretty sure it's on our Facebook page if you want to look at it. So
Okay.
but yeah, so here's March. So let's see. We missed Jared, but that was unusual for him. He normally comes. We missed Kimberly on that one too. Randy Poe, he's kind of in and out. Who's that? Francis O'Hara. He does okay. Not great on attendance. Sybil Murphy, that was, oh, she was already gone by then. Lisa Morris, she's actually one where she's more involved in the committee, and then sometimes she does miss the board meeting. So she kind of sees, and then Anna hadn't started yet. Chad again. Michelle, that was unusual for her. She let me know that she wasn't going to be able to make it, and then that's all. And kind of similar numbers for the last few. November was a little low on business folks, but we still had 26 people, which is the same as March in term, total attendance.
Actually, Tara, I think those numbers look pretty good historically.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I think that we're doing a pretty good job of getting the people to the
Okay.
big WIB meetings. It's just the committee work that kind of seems questionable from time to time.
Okay, that's helpful.
Outside of
Also
the
say we've
MBO,
had
of
a
course.
history of some free riders that we just don't really have anymore. So
Great. Well, that's good. That's good to hear. And then I didn't show you this. We normally have full attendance at the executive committee meeting. So, and I anticipate having the same tomorrow. So we've had 7. So all good there. Okay.
Okay.
And then let's see.
So
Oh, yeah.
leadership planning.
Yep. Let me go back to you guys.
Shoot, I have the email up now. I closed it.
So can I start with a realization that I had yesterday? So one of the things in the strategic plan that we've continued to talk about is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this strategic plan, as a little preview, is not going to look like your last strategic plan. It's not going to itemize every single to-do item that the staff have to do and every single thing that you as a board have to vote on. It's going to be a lot more high level. I mean, the vision that I have for the WIB is that this board needs some time to really explore what it's capable of. And I feel like this strategic plan needs to give, certainly a vision, which the group had. For those of you that are not on the strategic planning committee, the group has spent a lot of time thinking about the vision and the mission, but also just some space to think about, okay, so if this is the vision and these are the sort of daily tasks, right, that are encompassed in that 250-page document, that's our comprehensive plan, where does the board want to spend time exploring like what's possible? I hear over and over again from many board members, well, I've only been on the board 3 years. I don't really feel like I know what's going on yet. Okay. Yikes. Like it's in some ways it is extremely complex with all the bureaucracy that we're dealing with, but really at the heart of the matter, you guys as board members, I hope you feel empowered to say, we're trying to serve employers and connect them with job seekers. What does that look like? Right? What all do we need to do? And so the real effort behind the strategic plan is to really help you guys as board members feel empowered to do that. But one of the components that's come out of the process that I really hope that the board seizes upon is creating a diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. And I really see that as being necessary for everything from procurement to outcome tracking. There's just not enough of a like foundation at this point yet. And so the idea was that a committee would be created to facilitate that work, and that committee would report to the board on its progress. Okay, so what is this committee? Is this committee, and this is why I'm talking about it now and we're thinking about the leadership slate. Is this an ad hoc committee? Is this a standing committee? I don't know, right? It's just, at the moment, it's just been a conversation about there'll be a committee and the committee will make a plan. So I'm bringing it to you guys as an MBO because as we're starting to talk about here in just a second, who's going to do, who's going to be nominated for leadership positions. And there's potentially some movement around current committee chairs that would, theoretically move somebody, into a need for a committee chair role. Do we need to plan for an additional committee chair who will chair a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee? And is that role for 2 years and then we reassess? Is that role, does it become a standing committee? I just don't know the answer, but I wanted to bring it to your all's attention. I think it's more than an ad hoc committee, just to be honest, because I think there's a lot of work to be done. So I need to turn off my video for just a second, but I'm right here with you guys. Any thoughts, any reactions?
I guess the question that I'm thinking about is, what are the objectives of that committee? So
Yeah.
in some respects, there's the initial step of trying to define what that committee should do and how does the WIB, what role does the WIB play in this larger issue? So that piece feels the definition of those questions and answers are very much an ad hoc, getting the right people together for that vision conversation and some operational definition. The outcome of that would, I would imagine, clearly identify whether this is a continuing committee that requires leadership, or it's a subcommittee that need the same leadership and governance, or it's a one-time committee that served its purpose and is integrated into other committees.
Right.
I had the same thought, John, as far as what would be the long-term objective of that committee. I mean, if we are looking to hit a target and we hit it, do we feel like it's a one and done and we can move forward, or do we need to continually raise the bar to become best in class or make sure that we meet industry benchmarks? So I have the same feeling that you do, frankly. I'm wondering if we do a strong ad hoc just to see and identify the objectives that you mentioned, John, and then also to see who's really truly passionate about it on the board. But I do think that if it becomes a subcommittee of another committee, it might get lost in the shuffle. I really do think that.
I would add on to kind of what you guys are talking about, but it almost feels like to me that this is the kind of committee that maybe when it's formed, that part of the makeup of that committee would be one person from every other committee, along with some non-committee members, to help institutionalize it back into those committees as they're going back into their normal committee. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
That's kind of what I'm, and Dean, I think the same thing is, if this is a committee that stands alone, then it's treated as this thing. But
Yeah.
it's its own problem. And true inclusive work means it's integrated into what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, that's the
So-
only way you institutionalize the change in behaviors.
Yeah. But I don't think, I mean, that's an ambitious and somewhat utopian vision. And some may be more prepared to do that, and some it may take a lot of effort. So I've had this conversation in these groups past, is you have to be very intentional about that. Even if you think, hey, we're all really open-minded people, we don't need to do this. It's no, you have to continue to sort of beat the drum, because you don't understand the bias that the implicit bias that you just simply can't see the conscious. So Terry, I don't know if we're ready to answer that question. I think it really depends on what are our objectives, and it may be this is an answer that keeps evolving. You're on mute if you are actually present. Both of you are on mute right now, Tara.
What? I'm sorry. I lost you for just a second. I heard everything until you said something about you were talking about the different objectives and kind of, it getting lost versus making sure that, we're talking about, is it utopian and everybody is going to kind of come from each committee, or are we trying to make sure that it just moves forward? So sorry, that's where I was.
I think there's some consensus in the conversation that ideally this is not a standalone committee. The outcomes are integrated into the current structure we have. But
Yep.
we're really not ready for that yet. So
Right.
Does this exist as a ad hoc committee that's the goal? Or is that going to take long enough that it needs to be its own committee until it can say, we will now merge into the past structure?
Yeah.
That's whether it's ad hoc or it's time limited to put pressure on achieving the goal of being an integrated
Right.
strategy.
So looking past the sort of initial phase of startup, we'll say, would you imagine that the role of if we're thinking about this committee and it's thinking about board membership and it's thinking about impact and different things, I could see it incorporating eventually into actually this committee, into MBO. And I can also imagine it, if not, maybe just reporting directly to the executive committee. I mean, it definitely has components of every single one of them. So I'm curious what you guys would imagine, once you were past startup phase, which committee do you think it works best with? If it wasn't a standalone.
Well, again, I think it depends. Is this an inward looking committee or an outward looking committee? So this committee certainly has its focus on the inward. And it's been a topic, but it's not one that I think we've defined
Right.
our goals well enough to say that we've integrated that into this committee. We're aware of it, but I would not say that we are at the status we would ideally want to be at. But we are not looking committee.
Exactly, right. That's at this point, the role of the committee is to do some more of that defining and identifying some of those initial steps that really are needed. So I definitely agree with that. But I also think the work is big enough that a committee is really needed to take it on. I'm completely comfortable with saying like it's a time limited committee that, you know, will create a report or create an action plan within a certain period of time. You know, I think honestly it'll probably take at least 6 months, if not a year, but you know, create an action plan and start the implementation phase. You know, I'm okay. I would be, you know, comfortable with that. And then that committee can kind of determine what happens next. If that works for you guys. So I know we don't have a ton of time. Do you guys want to talk about officers for a minute?
Yeah, I'd like to share what that looks like. I don't know if we've shared this with the whole committee, so.
We haven't.
Okay. So let me give an update as to who, what nominations have come forward and where we stand with things. So I'm just going to go kind of from top down. So Michelle Sesterik is the lone nominee for board chair. I think we've already talked about that. Jamie Parsons from St. E's has accepted our outreach nomination to him for the vice chair role. I'm going to do this all without commentary. I'm trying to read, I'm going back and forth between some things. Dave Schroeder and Dean have expressed interest and willingness in the other two officer positions, treasury and secretary. We've not been specific about which, but so thank you, Dean, for that. Appreciate that. And then for committee chairs, it's been radio silence for this committee, so it looks like I'm still the chair of that. Brian Bozeman from Skanska has stepped up for the BSC chair and will take over Dave's position. And then Katrina Bowman Thomas from NKCAC will take over for the program and youth chair. So we have nominees for each of the positions we needed. There really hasn't been any multiple people to present forward, so we're not trying to manage any conflict. But at the same time, we also don't have really choice beyond those officer and board committee chair nominations.
Yeah, I will say that as far as PY, I don't know that anybody knows that, except for Katrina knows that that is an open position. So I think there could be some others that we could talk to if other people knew that it was open.
So I wanted to ask about that because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but would Katrina eventually or potentially have a conflict of interest? I thought that she was part of the organization in some faction that bidded on the operator role in the last go around. Is that true?
That's correct.
I think I'm a little bit uncomfortable without a little bit more information about that.
John, when you talked to her, did she indicate, you know, did she indicate if she thought there was going to be any kind of conflict moving forward?
We did not get into that specific aspect in that conversation. Really, it was just you and I have spoken about maybe your other concerns.
Yeah. Well, back to the officers for just a second, as far as chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. Dean just said he had to step away for a second. I didn't mean to say this just right when he left, but
No, I'm still here.
oh, okay, cool.
It's
I was
a lot easier to talk about you, Dean, when you walk away though.
I could turn my camera and mic off and just listen.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that's a great group, and other than just flipping a coin to see who is secretary and who is treasurer, I think it's an exciting direction to go. So I did just want to comment on that on its own. I mean, I had a brief conversation with Jamie Parsons, and he seemed very enthusiastic. So I'm pleased with the direction, and I think it'll be good. So that's good. I will say, I mean, and John knows my thoughts on this, but I do have some concerns about potential conflicts from not only just the nature of what a conflict is, but also I did get some additional information this past week from the cabinet that concerns me a little bit logistically. If Katrina were to have a conflict based on a new conflict of interest policy that is coming through the NKWIB, she would have to leave the room or leave the Zoom meeting for any part of the meeting that would be related to the conflict. And we as staff have already identified a need for, probably about a year in advance of our RFP doing a rewrite of that process. So if there was any thought that CAC might apply, they wouldn't be able to be present in the room for any of that conversation, which I think just makes it kind of tricky for a committee chair.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word tricky. I would use untenable. So
Yeah.
knowing that is a legitimate concern, why don't I reach out to her again?
Okay.
Just get her thoughts on this. And just to be very transparent from my side, I have found Katrina to be an excellent voice to say some uncomfortable things that I think we need more of in our WIB. And I subscribe to the Abraham Lincoln philosophy of you want to surround yourself with people who disagree with you to challenge and bring the best in you. And I think that I would hate to lose that voice because she feels that there's not an opportunity for her to engage more deeply in this.
Yeah.
So that's why I think she might have. I can't remember who came up with it first, but we were both on the same page when it came up really early on. So let me talk to her offline and find out about it.
Is there any opportunity
And try to get more clarity.
And John, I mean, one question I would have is there an opportunity that she would lead this DEI effort, right? And have some hard questions there, because I think we need them. And I don't know if she'd be willing to do that, but if she was, I think it could be potentially, give her a space to really lead, in an area that I know she feels very passionately about.
Right. Okay. No, that's a great backup. And then I do need to. I really have a hard stop. So
Okay.
Not her. I don't know the Kenny well enough to know who's a good possible alternative. So phone call tomorrow with her to see if I can get some clarity on that.
Okay.
Could discuss right now and just think about the what if should that need to go to that. I would appreciate that.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
Did
you all.
anybody else have anything, or we can adjourn if you want, John, since you got to go.
I don't want to cut off exciting conversations. So
Well, we still have to stop and let you read the document to Dave.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
John will drop off. John and I've got to drop off for that. but-
okay, well let's why don't we call the meeting to a close, and we'll adjourn for today. So homework individually is just to review the PY member grid and just think about possible alternatives for that chair role. And then I've got Paul White, Amazon, Tier 1, and Katrina Bowman. And then Tara, you're going to reach out to Colleen Kirkpatrick from Ethos.
Sir.
All right. And then Judge Moore as well. All right.
Yes.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
everybody.
great one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.